In our headlines on this Tuesday afternoon, May 30th, here in South Korea. President Yoon Suk-yeol is playing host to the country's first summit with Pacific Island leaders to address regional economic development and climate change, as well as to rally support for Busan's bid to host the 2030 World Expo. And North Korea is preparing to launch its first spy satellite in June, even as the international community denounces the move as violating a number of United Nations Security Council resolutions. Meanwhile, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan wins Turkey's election in a historic runoff vote this past Sunday, garnering over 52% of the ballots to extend his rule into a third decade. We start with some disturbing news here on the Korean Peninsula. Pyongyang is poised to launch its first reconnaissance satellite within early June, despite the denunciation of the international community. Our Lee Soo-jin starts us off.
Tensions are once again ramping up on the Korean Peninsula. High-ranking North Korean military official Lee Byung-chul announced in a statement released by the country's state media KCNA on Tuesday that the country is planning to launch a military spy satellite as soon as June. This marks the first time that North Korea has revealed a timeline for the satellite launch. This comes just a day after the Japanese media reported that North Korea had notified Japan of its plan to launch the satellite sometime between May 31st and June 11th. Japan's Coast Guard, which coordinates maritime safety in East Asia, promptly issued a safety warning for ships. In the statement, Ri, the vice chairman of the Central Military Commission of the ruling Workers' Party, also condemned joint military exercises by South Korea and the United States. He added that the military reconnaissance satellite would be launched to track, monitor, and determine in real time the military actions of the United States and its allies. South Korea and the U.S. conducted the largest live-fire exercise of its kind near North Korea's border last week, which is scheduled to continue until mid-June. The news of the imminent spy satellite launch drew contrasting responses from the U.S. and China. The U.S. State Department denounced North Korea's threats, warning that it will be held accountable if it actually launches the satellite. A launch by North Korea that uses long-range ballistic missile technology is a violation of the UN Security Council's resolutions. Meanwhile, North Korea's biggest ally, China, reiterated its previous stance on the importance of carrying out meaningful and balanced conversations. Its foreign ministry spokesperson Mao Ning said in a press briefing on Monday that China hopes that all the nations involved will understand the crux of the issue with North Korea, strive to reach a political settlement, and address the concerns of all the parties involved in a balanced manner. Ning, however, did not respond to whether the satellite launch is a violation of the UN Security Council's resolutions. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
Here in South Korea, the country is playing host to leaders of the Pacific Islands Forum who are in Busan on this Tuesday to explore the southern port city's efforts to host the 2030 World Expo. Now, back on Monday, a summit between President Yoon Suk-yeol and members of the forum saw climate change and economic expansion topping talks. Our top office correspondent Kim Do-yeon reports.
Taking a step further as a global pivotal state, South Korea hosted members of the Pacific Islands Forum and pledged to expand cooperation with them in climate change, security, and official development assistance. This was the first summit between the two sides and was also President Yoon Suk-yeol's debut as the host of a multilateral summit. Attending were 12 heads of state, including leaders from the Cook Islands and Palau, while other nations such as Australia and New Zealand were represented by their top ministers. Calling them close neighbors, the president wished to point out that both South Korea and the Pacific Islands are facing similar issues.
저는 여기 계신 정상들과 힘을 합쳐 PIF와 대한민국이 함께하는 상생의 파트너십을 추구하고자 합니다. 태도국의 생존과 번영에 직결된 기후변화, 자연재해, 식량, 보건, 해양수산 위기는 연대와 협력을 통해서만 극복할 수 있습니다.
According to the joint statement and action plan that was announced following the summit under the theme of navigating towards co-prosperity, strengthening cooperation with the Blue Pacific, the two sides will build on their diplomatic ties based on freedom, peace, and prosperity. Tackling climate change as the region sees the direct effects of rising sea levels as well as devastating hurricanes was a priority, along with the sustainable use of marine resources. In addition, Seoul will double the budget for official development assistance provided to PIF members. According to the Korea International Cooperation Agency, as of August last year, South Korea spent nearly $200 million in the last 30 years on ODA in the region. They also address issues in security, saying solidarity is key and jointly condemned North Korea's recent provocations.
Honorable leaders, as the COVID-19 pandemic and the Russia-Ukraine war has shown us, regional and interregional cooperation is essential if we are to build a safe, secure, and prosperous world.
And now the South Korean government will be switching focus to convincing the visitors to support Busan in the city's quest to host the World Expo in 2030 with 11 votes from Pacific Islands Forum members available. In fact, the visiting leaders will head down to Busan on Tuesday to tour potential expo sites. According to the top office, during the bilateral summits, some countries have already shown support for the bid, including the Marshall Islands and Papua New Guinea. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, on the sidelines of the broader summit, President Yoon held separate talks with his counterparts from 10 Pacific Island nations to address bilateral interests and intentions to promote sustainable regional growth. Our senior top office correspondent Oh Soo-young has more.
President Yoon Suk-yeol held bilateral talks with leaders of 10 Pacific Island nations, deepening South Korea's engagement with its neighbours in the Indo-Pacific. On Monday, he sat down with the leader of the Cook Islands, which is currently chairing the Pacific Islands Forum, and the Prime Ministers of the Marshall Islands, Solomon Islands, Niue and Palau. They discussed South Korea's official development assistance projects in their countries, including water management, renewable energy and resource development, and expressed their intent to advance future exchanges and collaboration. In particular, Yoon's summit with the leader of Niue also coincided with the two countries forging official diplomatic ties on the same morning. Reviewing Seoul's bilateral relations with each of his Pacific counterparts, the South Korean leader has put a special focus on climate response, maritime cooperation, public health and development, as extreme climate events threaten the health of Pacific Islanders, as well as the region's economic and social development. On Sunday, he met with Kiribati's President Tanati Mamao, who expressed interest in South Korea's economic development model and working on advancing the fishing industry and health. Sio Sisavaleni, Prime Minister of Tonga, said he hopes to work with Seoul in the digital sector. Tonga was the first Pacific Island nation to forge diplomatic ties with South Korea in 1970. Meanwhile, Kausea Netano, the leader of Tuvalu, highlighted cooperation on telecommunication facilities, hydrogen exports and decarbonisation in shipping. And the leader of Vanuatu also requested support in future development projects. James Marape, Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea, said he hopes for investment by South Korean manufacturers and for Seoul to reopen its foreign aid agency in his country.
Going forward, President Yoon pledged to develop just and trust-based relations with the Pacific Island countries, all of which now have bilateral ties with South Korea. The leaders welcomed Seoul's growing interest in development assistance to their countries. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
In other news, after being stranded in Guam for a week due to Typhoon Mawar, Korean tourists have started arriving home. Guam International Airport resumed operations on Monday, and more than 500 Korean tourists landed at Incheon International Airport late Monday night. According to government authorities here, 11 flights headed to Guam on Monday to bring Koreans back home. Authorities believe more than 2,500 out of the total 3,400 Korean tourists in Guam will have returned home safely by this coming Wednesday. And first quarter earnings show a significant travel deficit for Korea. According to the Bank of Korea on this Tuesday, the country's travel deficit amounted to $3.2 billion during the first quarter of this year. Now, this is the largest first quarter deficit in 5 years and the largest quarterly deficit in more than 3 years since the third quarter of 2019. The growing travel deficit has been largely linked to the slow return of travelers from neighboring China. While the number of inbound tourists from overseas rose over 500% on year during the first quarter, the number of outbound tourists from Korea soared 1,100% during the same period, resulting in a tangible deficit for the country. Also in local news, 2 out of 3 low-income households spent more than they earned in the first quarter of this year. According to Statistics Korea on this Tuesday, over 62% of households in the lowest income bracket were exceeding their disposable income in spending. This is a jump of over 5 percentage points on year and the highest for the first quarter since the outbreak of COVID-19. Agency officials are linking the finding to high utility bills, including those for electricity and gas, which surged by over 15%, as well as the suspension of various government benefits during the pandemic. In Turkey, President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan has won a 3rd term in office following a historic runoff election this past weekend. Our Song Yujin has mourned his victory and its broader implications.
Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan has secured another 5 years in office. With more than 99% of ballots counted, Turkey's election commission declared Erdoğan as the winner of Sunday's runoff vote. With more than 52% of the vote, he defeated his rival, opposition leader Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, who got 47%. This came 2 weeks after Erdoğan fell just short of the 50% of the vote needed for an outright win in the election's first round. Following the results, Kılıçdaroğlu described the election as, quote, the most unfair in recent years, but did not dispute Erdoğan's victory. The Turkish leader now enters his 3rd straight term as president. Erdoğan's victory comes at a pivotal time, both at home and abroad. Turkey is battling with skyrocketing inflation while trying to recover from the devastating earthquake in February that took the lives of more than 50,000 people. Outside, there is the war in Ukraine, as well as Sweden's efforts to join NATO. Erdoğan has been holding off approving Sweden's entry into the bloc, which needs unanimous approval from member states, and he has accused Sweden of being soft on groups that Turkey considers to be terrorists. Other NATO members have been pushing for Sweden's membership as part of their efforts to isolate Russia following its invasion of Ukraine. Turkey has been going the opposite of its NATO allies, maintaining ties with Moscow and continuing trade with Russia. This has prompted the United States to stop the sales of its F-16 fighter jets to Ankara. Some experts say Erdoğan could change his mind and approve Sweden's NATO bid so that he can purchase F-16s from the U.S. It's unclear whether Turkey could go for big changes in its foreign policy, but the international community is keeping a close eye on its moves. 송유진, Arirang News.
And in related news, President Yoon has joined his global counterparts in congratulating Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan on his re-election. Taking to Twitter back on Monday, President spoke of looking forward to working with his Turkish counterpart Erdoğan to further promote South Korea and Turkey's strategic partnership and to deepen the brotherhood of their people. Korea and Turkey's ties go back much further than the 66 years of their official diplomatic relations, and Turkish soldiers fought alongside South Koreans during the Korean War, setting the stage for a brotherhood forged in blood. Turkish President Erdoğan was first elected to the top office in 2014 and was previously Turkey's Prime Minister. In Ukraine, for the first time in months, capital Kyiv was targeted with missile and drone assaults during broad daylight this past Monday as Russia launches a massive airstrike. Our Isingje has the latest.
Russia has been ramping up assaults on the Ukrainian capital Kyiv this month. On Sunday, Kyiv faced heavy missile and drone attacks, and again on Monday, the capital came under another wave of attacks from Russia, this time during daytime hours. According to the Ukrainian military, Russia fired dozens of cruise missiles from strategic bombers stationed in the Caspian Sea. While most of the missiles were shot down, the attacks killed 4 and injured 25 others in the city in the 2 days of the assault. The latest attack on the capital was all the more concerning as it marked the first daytime attack in the area in months, while streets were full of people going to work and school. The daytime assault followed a massive Russian air attack using drones the previous day. Ukraine says it shot down 58 out of the 59 drones used to attack the capital on Sunday. And with Moscow using Iranian-made drones, Ukraine's parliament voted in favor of a proposal to impose additional sanctions against Iran to stop the transit of Iranian products through Ukrainian territory. Ukraine says Iran has supplied Russia with so-called kamikaze drones, which have been used to target Ukrainian infrastructure, leading to civilian deaths. While Russia has so far launched 16 assaults on Kyiv this month, the Kyiv Regional Military Administration says Moscow seems to be changing its tactics, demonstrating its will to attack the civilian population. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, in the field of regenerative medicine, 3D bioprinting is promising to take treatment to a new level. That being said, a team of researchers here have developed a bioink that is more biocompatible with tissues and even biodegradable. Our Yoon explains.
The bio industry has been hard at work trying to develop 3D printing technology capable of creating artificial tissue for the human body. The challenge has been developing a bioink that is safe for humans. The risk of toxicity is high when using chemicals and ultraviolet rays, which means there would need to be external culturing of cells that then need to be transplanted into the body, furthering the risks of side effects. Developing this bioink technology has remained in its research stages and so far has not been successful in reaching the clinical testing stage. But now a team of Korean researchers has developed bioink that can hold a stable structure through temperature control. At body temperature, its form hardens to a gel-like structure. This new bioink printed part helps regenerate tissue cells, then biodegrades in the body after a certain period of time. Not only is it easy to print in various shapes, but its greatest advantage is that it doesn't need ultraviolet rays to hold its structure. The research team tested this technology on a mouse with a damaged skull. In 8 weeks, the bioink printed support structure helped the bones regenerate to normal tissue levels, and the structure itself had started its slow biodegradation.
We could see the bioink slowly biodegrade by the 42nd day, and comparing the 4th and 8th weeks, we could see the bones regenerate.
Existing bioink required an additional injection of stem cells, which increased the risk of side effects on the immune system. But this newly developed bioink stimulates the regeneration of tissues and not cells, so it can be used to treat any orthopedic patient.
The bioink has the ability to attract stem cells within the body to regenerate desired tissue growth without an injection of external stem cells.
The research team says the bioink is being prepared for clinical trials at a local bioventure company and expects this technology to be commercialized as early as 3 years from now. They also plan further research into using the bioink not only for bone tissue regeneration, but also for it to be used for skin and organ tissue regeneration. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at what's going on in the world now. Russia on Monday issued an arrest warrant for United States Senator Lindsey Graham over comments related to the war in Ukraine. The warrant follows Ukraine's release of an edited video of a meeting between the Republican politician and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Friday. In the shortened clip, Graham says, quote, "The Russians are dying," and later in the conversation says that the US military assistance to Ukraine was the best money we've ever spent. But the shortened video puts the two separate remarks together. Graham responded to the arrest warrant, saying he would wear it as a badge of honor. Zelensky's office on Sunday uploaded the full, unedited clip. Turning our attention now to Kosovo, where at least 25 NATO troops have been injured in clashes with Serb protesters while defending town halls in northern Kosovo. NATO has condemned the attacks on its peacekeepers as totally unacceptable. The clashes broke out on Monday after the installation of ethnic Albanian mayors. They were elected in an April vote that was boycotted by Kosovo Serbs, who make up the majority in the northern regions. Kosovo declared its independence from Serbia in 2008. Its sovereign status has been recognized by 99 United Nations member states. And finally, a kitten trapped in a rain pipe for 3 days has been found alive in Lebanon's capital, Beirut. Rescuers from the animal charity group Animals Lebanon were able to save the kitten on Friday local time, using special small cameras to locate the furry feline. According to the vice president of the group, the kitten got trapped shortly after being born. It was reportedly part of a litter and abandoned by its owner. The rescued kitten has fast become popular, drawing attention from volunteer rescuers, the public, and even some politicians. It's been suggested that it be named Beirut. Matthew Ashley, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. It's quite muggy today, very warm and humid, with the humidity level reaching more than 90% in the capital. And highs are approaching near 30 degrees Celsius this afternoon, with a chance of passing rain later in the day. Well, Jeju Island will see rain picking up as the day goes on, with up to 80 millimeters of showers expected into tomorrow morning, while passing rain is in the forecast in central regions and Jeollado provinces until this afternoon. It could rain along with thunder and lightning, so have an umbrella handy. The capital region is forecast to receive showers around 5 p.m. Now, regions near the coast are having temperatures on the cooler side in the low 20s. Inland areas are seeing highs in the upper 20s this afternoon, and the air quality will be normal to good nationwide all day today. Now, Jeju is forecast to see rain through the end of the week, while the mainland stays mostly sunny with early summer temperatures. Well, that's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
And those are the headlines at this hour. We have our panel session coming up right after this break, so do stay with us. Thank you for now.
Hello, I'm Gustav Slamečka, Czech ambassador. Arirang TV is doing its best as a media diplomacy channel representing Korea by delivering current affairs information and news in a balanced voice. Everyone I meet can get news about Korea through Arirang, and we are thankful. I hope Arirang TV will continue to take the lead in delivering Korea's news to the world, and I hope it will be a channel for the world and Korea to synthesize. Resonating with the world, Arirang.
Contour the world, simply contour. India, the United Kingdom, New Zealand. Woo!
I'm excited. You excited?
Of course.
Yeah.
Music, start.
춥지 않은가요? 처음 태어난 이별에서 사는 우리 손잡아요.
A picture is worth 1,000 words. And the exhibition Beyond Prejudice offers the public here the chance to indulge in the beautiful portraits of our furry friends who were rescued from the local dog meat trade and given a new leash on life, so to speak. So how were these dogs rescued? What efforts are underway to better protect dogs here? And is the nation's public perception about animal rights changing?
Welcome to Issues and Insiders. Today we shed light on a rather meaningful exhibition currently underway here in Seoul that seeks to share the new lives of dogs that were rescued from the local dog meat trade. For more on this, I have award-winning French photographer Sophie here in the studio. Sophie, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I also have Porami Seo, Director of Government Affairs at the Humane Society International Korea with us as well. Porami, it's good to have you here as well.
Thank you for having me.
Right, Sophie, let's start with a few words about your latest exhibition, which I understand was proposed to you by the Humane Society International Korea.
Absolutely, yeah. The exhibit is currently on view at the Metro Out Center, and it's going to be up until this Thursday at 4 p.m. and it's open to the public, it's free, and we really hope people are going to come and enjoy the portraits. The portraits feature dogs who have been rescued from dog meat farms in South Korea by Humane Society International and have since been adopted into families.
I see. How many portraits do you have?
Oh, in the exhibit, the total campaign is 45 portraits, and the exhibit a little less. Actually, I haven't counted.
Right, but there are enough portraits.
Yes, there's enough to spend a nice half hour enjoying the stories and the portraits. There's a lot to learn and to look at, so it's a fun exhibit.
Right. And Purami, for the sake of our viewers who may not be familiar with your organisation, the Humane Society International Korea, could you tell us a bit about it and its mission?
Sure. So Humane Society International Korea is a Seoul-based NGO, and Humane Society International Korea, Humane Society International has country offices and projects in around 50 countries, and our work involves around tackling the suffering of animals. So that's including trophy hunting, wildlife exploitation, intensive farming, dog meat trade issues across Asia, of course, and animals used in research, and other rescues and other issues as well. So our work is a combination of raising public awareness, and also we work with the government ministries to change the law to protect animals, campaigns with investigations, rescues, academic research, and variety of work.
And how old is the Humane Society International Korea? When was it
Korea is actually not very old. We are formally registered under the Ministry of Industry in Ministry of Environment in 2018. So it's been a few years, but we've been running these rescue operations, Borders for Change, since 2015.
Apart from the workers there, do you have a lot of volunteers?
Not yet, but we are hoping to engage with more volunteers and then like-minded people.
Right, good to know. Sophie, what prompted you now to accept the proposal for this project by the Humane Society International Korea?
Well, as an artist, I'm really interested in the relationship between dogs and humans. It's a more than 20,000-year-old friendship, and dogs have been so loyal to us. They've been perfect companions. And I'm particularly interested in exploring areas where that friendship has been betrayed, where humans act cruelly and maybe, really disrupt that bond. And of course, the dog meat trade is probably one of the prime examples of that trust and friendship being betrayed.
And Sophie, is there a reason behind your interest in animals at shelters, broadly speaking?
Yeah, I think for me it's about making these dogs who are mostly invisible to the public visible. My photos are here to bring them dignity and make sure they are seen and that their stories are told. So shelter dogs, as well as dogs who are trapped in the dog meat trade and live on farms, their stories are never really told. And often, they die in a way that is meaningless. And so my work is here to bring meaning to their lives and sometimes their death, and maybe prompt society to change.
And staying with us, Sophie, do tell us about your earlier project. I believe it was called Flower Power. You were seeking to shift public perception over in the US with regard to pit bulls. Could you tell us a bit more about that endeavor?
Yeah, Pitbull Flower Power is a project I started now a decade ago, and it's been an amazing project. I photographed about 450 pit bulls in animal shelters across the United States, all wearing unique flower crowns that I made for them. The idea was to rebrand these dogs who are so profoundly misunderstood, which leads to people being afraid of adopting them, and therefore a lot of them being euthanized in shelters. So it was very similar to the work we're trying to do with the dog meat farm, and the project was really successful. I think it shifted the conversation internationally around these dogs, because the project was picked up by the media, and it's had really a profound impact.
Did it lead to a lot of adoptions in the US?
Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely. A lot of my models were adopted, sometimes thanks to the photo itself, but also because it changed the conversation. So people would come to the shelter and say, can I meet the flower dogs? Instead of asking for, I don't want to see any pit bulls.
And staying with that idea about flower dogs, what was behind that idea?
It was actually really because I was afraid of pit bulls myself, and the media often portrays them as monsters, and so I wanted to infuse a more soft, feminine energy into their image, and using art as a tool for that. And I figured, flower crowns, what is more feminine and fragile? It's about celebrating them as it's a life, and a life is fleeting, and it deserves to be celebrated.
What was it working with them? What was it like working with them when you put the crowns on their heads?
I will tell you, at first, I was really nervous. I thought, this dog doesn't know me, and I'm about to wrap my hands around their head. I mean, it is very confrontational for dogs, you know. But from the first model, I just had such an incredible experience. Dogs want to trust humans, and that is the most poignant thing about them. They want to trust, they want to always be with us, and they will do anything for us. And this is why it gives us a big responsibility to treat them with compassion and kindness and make sure they are protected from our worst traits.
Right. Purami, the stars of Sophie's latest exhibition here in Seoul are survivors of the dog meat trade, as she has clarified, and they were rescued by your entity, the Humane Society International Korea, under a program called Models for Change. Could you tell us a bit more about this program and its achievements thus far?
Sure. So Models for Change was started in 2015, and back then we are hearing from many farmers that they actually want to step away from this cruel industry, but they just didn't know how to, and so they will get pressure from family members, and also there is a decreasing demand for the dog meat consumption as well. So and then there are also the remaining dogs, so they just didn't know what to do. So like by having conversation with them, we started to understand that okay, we can work cooperatively with them. So it's a kind of a win-win situation. The farmers get to be away from their business, and they also want to get away from this vicious cycle of breeding and selling dogs for consumption every year. And for dogs, they get to be given second chance. So we've been working with the farmers for the past since 2015, and then it's been very incredible to see their responses and also to see the rescued dogs, how they can be just like other pet dogs. There is no such thing as like meat dogs or pet dogs. So it's been very incredible journey, and the Models for Change is the only program of its kind in South Korea, because we believe that we can phase out the dog meat farm through cooperation rather than causing conflict. So the idea behind it is to show blueprint to the government that we can work this in harmonization. So it's been an incredible journey.
What happens to the dogs who are rescued from these farms?
Yeah, so these rescued dogs, they are moved to the US or the Canada, and then they will be staying at our rehabilitation center, and they will go through individual training with our experienced team. And then different dogs have different personalities, so some might find it kind of difficult. It's difficult to think that, you know, these dogs are coming from very different, difficult background, and how can they become a companion dogs? But then when they go through like those trainings, and then once they get to start to trust humans, it's just very rewarding experience as well. And so yeah, it's been great to see how they change.
I also understand a number of Korean celebrities have taken to adopting these dogs from the farms. Could you tell us a bit more about that as well?
Yeah, so one of the stars of this exhibition is a dog retriever called Juliet, and Juliet has been adopted by Daniel Henney, Korean actor. And I saw Juliet at the farm. I met Juliet at the farm for the first time, and then I remember she didn't have any facial express on her face. Like her face was very, very bored, very kind of scared and nervous around the people. But when I was petting her, she didn't deny, and she wanted to be petted more. And then after she was rescued from the property, we could see that like she was showing interest and being curious, like what's going on, and sniffing out. And now she's living the best life with Daniel Henney in the United States, and just like how dogs should be living.
Right, right. Purami, could you tell me a bit more about this relationship that your entity has been able to forge with dog farmers? I understand it's a productive one, like you mentioned earlier. Could you tell us a bit more about that relationship?
Yeah, so we actually hear from farmers approaching to HSI Korea that they want to find a way to get out of this industry. And also we sometimes get calls from their relatives or family members asking, oh, they heard about this story, like where we come and rescue the dogs and then close down the farm, and how they can work with us. And so
that's very kind of like cases we are building up through the Models for Change program. And sometimes we get to meet with farmers who we worked previously to close the farm, and then we show them the footages, like videos of the videos and pictures of the rescued dogs from the same farm. And then their first expression is that they can't believe they are looking at the same dog who used to be very trapped and frustrated in the farm, and now living the best life, like running around the farm, like rivers, running around the sea, like mountains, and playing with the children. And so, it's also very rewarding to see that these voices spread, the voice of farmers and their views on the dogs. Now they see that, you know, these dogs can really deserve the second chance, and then they can be really be found with a happy family. And then the word spread to other farmers, and the other farmers contact us, trying to figure out, you know, how we can work together. And then also they want to like provide a better life for the remaining dogs when they shut down the property. So that's how it's been working.
Right, I see. And Sophie, I understand that prior to the pandemic, you were actually at a dog farm here in Korea back in the year 2019, I believe. What was that experience like?
It was very important for me to actually visit a farm before starting working on this project. I needed to see where these dogs were born, how they lived, and understand within my bones, you know, what really it means to be a dog meat dog. It was a really profound, overwhelming experience for all my senses. First, it was very hot and smelly, and the dogs are barking, they're bored, they are scared. Some are very friendly and are begging you to pet them. They want so much love, even though they've never felt a kind hand before. They want it. And the thing I think that stayed with me the most after my visit was that cage, that disgusting, rusty, dangerous, exposed cage where they live is their entire world. And around them, the world is ever-changing. The seasons, birds are flying, but they will never feel the grass under their paws. They will never be a part of the world. They are kept outside in limbo until they are slaughtered. And that, for me, was probably the most cruel aspect. I know the slaughter is horrible, but for me, the idea that they were sentient beings trapped in limbo like this was what really broke my heart.
What were you trying to bring to light then through this exhibition?
I really want people to connect with each individual story, each individual dog. I want people to look into the eyes of these big portraits. And the portraits are really big, so you are completely immersed. And I want people to look into these eyes and feel the spirit of these dogs and ask themselves, did that dog deserve that fate? You know, it's something really profound to emotionally connect to the individual dogs.
And I'm sure all of them struck a chord with you, but was there one particular story that you remember about these dogs?
Oh yeah, all of them really touched me, but Sam is probably the one I kept with me because he was one of those dogs that was completely friendly and refused even to eat his food. He wanted to be petted, and I have videos of I would put my hand in the rusty cage and he would shove his head in my hand and go on his back for belly rubs, really showing all the signs of a pet dog that has been around people despite having been born and raised on a farm. And I was really looking forward to seeing him again, and he actually is a part of the campaign, and his portrait is at the exhibit. And he did so well because he's so connected to humans. He wants to please, he wants to learn, he's very smart, and our photo shoot was so easy that I got maybe 10 portraits out of the session, and it was very hard to choose which one to exhibit.
Right, and staying with that, what was it like working with these brave dogs for the photo shoot? I understand you didn't have like a flower crown for the portraits.
No,
here.
We used collars this time, so I handmade all these neck pieces and collars. The idea was to symbolize, you know, the collar is such a personal object that you put on your dog when you claim them as a companion. You put their name on the collar maybe, or you choose a collar at the shop that is going to reflect the kind of relationship you want with your dog. And so it's also like a wedding band. It's about a commitment. I'm going to love you, protect you, feed you. So for this series, because we wanted to portray these dogs as companion and not just meat, the collar became this symbol of, it tells a story, it elevates the dog, and it's about love and commitment.
And for each dog, you had a different color then?
Yes, absolutely. They each were a custom-made.
Right, I see. Good to know. Hurami, are these courageous canines able to find lasting refuge in their new homes, you think? I mean, also keeping in mind, of course, which you touched upon earlier, the sufferings that they endured. Are they able to easily adjust to their new surroundings?
So, yeah, these dogs are born and raised at the farm. So the farm is the entire world that they know. So it's only understandable that when humans come to them, they can be quite like wary of our touches. So during the rescue operation, we visit the farm again and again, and then we can see them they seem to understand we are there to take care of them, not the opposite. So it's kind of like we are building some sort of like trust each other. And through our rehabilitation center, they will go through the trainings, and each different dogs have different personalities. So some dogs may take some time, but some dogs, they may show like immediate kind of response during the rescues. As soon as they get out of the cage, they will sniff out, and then they show like interest, trying to figure out what's going on, and then their face expressions also change, they kind of open up to humans, and so that's also a very rewarding experience to have that connection with each dogs. And so they are now adopted in the US, Canada, the Netherlands, and the UK. And yeah, we are keeping in touch with the adoptive families, and then the stories we hear about how they developed their personalities through their journey. It's also very unique for each individual dogs.
Right, and of course very rewarding, as you mentioned earlier. Hurami, on the political front, both ruling and opposition parties here in the country appear to support the banning of dog meat. And that being said, do you believe there's been a broad consensus perhaps within the Korean public to end the trade of dog meat? And if that is the case, what is your entity seeking to do?
Right. Yeah, so I think this time is right more than ever to discuss coming everyone together politically and societally to banning dog meat. And it is Korea is working on raising public awareness, such as through this exhibition. And also we work with the government and politicians to be able to create the political kind of consensus. And until some years ago, politicians didn't speak up publicly showing their support for banning dog meat. But we heard some months ago, a First Lady, that she showed interest in banning dog meat. And then soon after that, both Democrat parties and People's Power Party, they said that they are going to prepare for the bills to ban dog meat. So, and then we did the nationwide opinion poll, and the poll result shows that 85% of the respondents say that they have never tried dog meat and they will not try. And among those tried, 50% respondents said that they had to do so just because there was a peer pressure from their colleagues or family members. And about 60% of respondents said that they actually support banning dog meat in South Korea. So the society is changing and it's ready, and then politically as well, the consensus is there is strong evidence that showing the consensus that we are getting closer to banning dog meat industry in Korea forever.
Right, good to know.
Yeah.
I suppose this is too early to ask, but after the exhibition that you have, which I believe is going to take place until this coming Thursday, after this particular exhibition, does your entity have any other plans with regard to the dog meat trade, or banning it, that is?
Oh yeah, of course. We are going to continue our public engagement campaigns, raising awareness that there is no such thing as meat dog, pet dogs, and also politically we are in conversation with different offices, trying to find how we can kind of move forward from here, because there is a strong societal evidence that the public is ready, and then politically that we've been hearing some strong voices. That's been very unprecedented. So let's take this moment and then momentum, and then let's step forward and then really, give these dogs a second chance that they deserve.
Right, of course. Sophie, as an artist, as a photographer, of course, and an animal rights advocate, what are your thoughts regarding your potential role in perhaps changing laws in countries to better protect our furry friends, if I may?
First, it's such an honor to be a part of a campaign, and I absolutely love the work that HSI Korea is doing. I will say art is such a powerful tool. By creating those emotional connections, we are really able to change cultures and change humanity for the better. I really believe that. I think people are good, and people are able to experience compassion. Sadly, humans are also really good at cognitive dissonance and creating separation, like pet dogs versus meat dogs. You know, like this is a mental construct that we have invented to protect ourselves from our bad choices. But ultimately, I think we can show the way, and those portraits and this exhibit is a great opportunity for the public to connect to the spirit of these dogs and hopefully become better guardians for our dogs, our animals, and the planet at large.
Sophie, do you have any furry friends at home?
Yes, I do have a little dog.
And this little dog was from a shelter as well? Or?
He was from an animal control facility in Puerto Rico, and they were about to euthanize him because he was a street dog, and they have a lot of them, and he didn't look cute enough. And there was something about him that was just so special. And he's a wonderful companion. I'm so glad he made it, you know, and I hope many more dogs can have that chance.
Sophie, can we look forward to seeing more exhibitions by you with regard to other animals aside from canines, like cats?
Dogs are just, there's an endless supply of stories. They've been with us for so long, and they're really like a perfect link between the natural world and the human world. And I really believe that if we learn to listen to them and understand what they're telling us, we can transform humanity. They're spiritual guides in a way. We can learn so much. So I want to help people, you know, listen to dogs better.
Right, I see. I only asked because my daughter saw a couple of your pictures online, of course, and she was interested. She wanted to know whether you were interested in working with cats, which are her favorite animals as well.
I have, you know, some cats, but I don't feel that same connection. I'm sorry.
Right,
I'm a dog.
No problem there. But I mean, what message does the Humane Society International Korea hope to perhaps share with those who come to see Sophie's latest exhibition?
Yeah, so the message that we would like to share with the public is in the title, Beyond Prejudice. So again, there is an increasing number of population living with companion dogs, pet dogs, and yet there are still belief, this myth and prejudice that there are dogs bred separately for consumption versus for pets. So we want to change that kind of social perception, and also through this exhibition, we hope to build the social momentum in support of our effort in banning dog meat industry in Korea.
Right, I see. Well, best of luck with that endeavor then.
Thank you very much.
All right, Purami, thank you so much for your time and your thoughts today. And Sophie, it's been an absolute honor.
Thank you.
Right, well, that ends Tuesday's edition of Issues and Insiders. We return same time tomorrow. That is Wednesday, so do join us then.